When I first read the news of India splitting, I thought India was on the verge of another partition. But this time, it isn't anything political or social. No, it was something else entirely. It appears that the land itself is splitting apart. Quite literally. Hang on tight because this is going to be one bad news after the other. But hopefully, by the end, I will have explained the whole India splitting deal to you in detail. The science behind what's happening?
The Indian tectonic plate could be splitting into two.
I honestly thought that I was in a sci-fi horror movie when I heard about India physically splitting into two. But then, I found out that it had something to do with the tectonic plates. Wait, let me break it down for you. You see, the Earth's crust isn't a big solid rock. Like a jigsaw puzzle, it is made up of many pieces called the tectonic plates that are constantly on the move. These plates crash against each other and even pull apart from one another as if they are in an endless battle. India sits on one of these plates too, called the Indian plate. And the Indian plate is the problem child of the bunch. In other words, it causes a lot of issues. And you'll probably agree with me too, if you see what a troublemaker it has been for millions of years. The Indian plate first started moving around 60 million years ago, when India wasn't even part of Asia. In fact, it was joined at the hip to Africa, Australia, and Antarctica into one giant supercontinent called Gondwana. But then, something pissed India off. It started moving at insane speeds towards the north. You might not have felt it even if you were there, but if you see it from the perspective of the geological world, where everything goes really slow, India was moving at super speed. This shift in speed caused India to break from the ancient supercontinent and collide into the Eurasian plate. As a result, the two plates smashed against each other and gave birth to the highest mountains in the world, the Himalayas. But here's the thing, it didn't stop moving back then, and it hasn't stopped today. In hindsight, it doesn't look too bad, right? After all, we're breaking records and getting taller peaks to climb. But it isn't all sunshine and roses. The reality is a bit concerning. You see, the Indian plate isn't just moving sideways, but it is also shifting vertically. Now, it isn't like the Indian plate is the first one to pull off something like this, but the way it is moving and the speeds at which it is happening are pretty unusual. As India keeps moving north into the Eurasian plate, it pushes the Himalayas about 0.19 inches upwards. That's why a few peaks like Mount Everest keep getting taller each year. While that was really exciting news for the mountain climber in me, turns out it isn't that good of a thing. As the Himalayas are forced to rise upwards, the added pressure is causing parts of the country to sink. And here's the scary bit. India isn't breaking into two clean pieces. Instead, it is breaking apart at multiple points. The constant shifting has already caused India to lose a lot of land. Every year, India moves about 2 inches under China, the country which sits on the Eurasian plate. Since the collision, the Indian plate has moved over 1,200 miles towards the Eurasian plate over the course of millions of years. Now, you're probably wondering why the tectonic plates are behaving this way. Well, that's the thing. No one knows. It is like walking into an active crime scene. You know something's wrong, but you have neither found the culprit nor the motive behind the crime. So, what do scientists think? While there is no definitive answer on why the Indian plate is moving this fast, there are plenty of theories out there. The first theory puts the blame on something called the mantle plume. You see, millions of years ago, a massive mantle plume formed in the Indian Ocean, a bed of hot rock rising from the Earth's mantle to the surface. You can think of the mantle plume as a boiling pressure cooker. Scientists believe that the heat and material from this ancient plume might be the one to blame for the Indian plate's unusual motion. It could be pushing parts of the Indian plate upwards in motion, causing it to move at fast speeds and adding on to its instability. Another theory is that the Indian plate might be lighter and thinner compared to other continental plates. If this is true, it would explain why the plate is shifting this fast, as there would be less resistance stopping it. But there's one more theory, and to be frank with you, it is the one that speaks the most to me. Scientists believe that the collision between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate that happened ages ago might not have been as smooth as we thought. Although the impact did create the Himalayas, it may have tensed up the Eurasian plate. It got squished up a bit, storing the energy from the impact like a rubber band. You see, the Eurasian plate resisted the push coming from India and in turn put stress on the Indian plate. But the Indian plate is just as stubborn. Instead of stopping and settling down, it is reacting in multiple chaotic ways at once. The plate is bending and cracking, triggering unusual seismic activity. The intense pressure causes some parts to sink, while others rise, leading to vertical movement. On top of all of this, the plate is also experiencing lateral shifts, which is the main reason why India is breaking apart at multiple points and moving in different directions. So we may not know the whole answer right now, but the drama was enough for the scientists to dig deep and figure out exactly what was going on. When and where? At this point, I was pretty confused. It didn't look to me as grim as the world made it, but that's because I hadn't yet realized how catastrophic all this was going to be in the long run. You remember how I said India is breaking apart at multiple points? Well, that little discovery has gotten scientists all riled up. If India was breaking into two clean pieces, maybe it wouldn't have been as chaotic. But right now, things are looking a little bit like the first day of the Black Friday sales. Scientists have figured out that there are specific regions of India that are breaking apart. Now, it doesn't take a genius to know that these are the same regions where the tectonic stress is higher. But it does take one to pinpoint these regions on the map, and that's exactly what the experts did next. Turns out, there are 4 regions of the country that are sitting right in the middle of all the chaos. First up, we have the Assam and Arunachal region, the northeastern side of India, and the place that will most likely face the terror up close. This particular area is probably the hotbed for all the major shifts that are expected to happen from the Indian plate's unusual movements. At least, that's what most geologists believe. They think that the Assam and Arunachal region might be the first places where visible fractures will appear over time. Fractures big enough to fit your hand inside. Plus, this region is also known for its high seismic activity. If it so happens, the land here will twist and turn, ultimately deforming and breaking the solid ground into giant chunks. On the same end of India, the northeastern side, there's one more area that's likely going to get hit by this geological anomaly, and that's the Himalayas and the Indo-Gangetic Plain. The impact on the Himalayas from this shift is pretty clear. They are going to keep rising higher and higher, and Mount Everest will get to brag about being the tallest mountain in the world for centuries to come. Of course, there will be a downside to this too. Let's talk about the Indo-Gangetic Plain, the flat piece of land that's just south of the Himalayas. This plain has been witnessing its fair share of cracks and unusual ground movements for a while now. For the longest time, people thought that it was because of groundwater extraction that the flat land kept sinking into the ground. Now, I don't know the full story. This might be the case. But with the recent discovery, I think the tectonic plates might have been the reason behind these cracks and shifts. The parts of northern India are slowly sinking, and that will most likely lead to an increase in seismic activity and ground deformation. This was the north. Now let's head to the central part of India, the Deccan Plateau. The pressure from the north is not going to go easy on this region. It is believed that the increased stress will most likely cause massive fissures on land in the Deccan Plateau, and these won't be any ordinary fractures. They will be the showrunners behind all the silent acts these tectonic plates are performing. These fractures will probably be massive, rivaling the ones in Africa. They will make it known that something underneath the ground is moving, and I don't think that it is going to be pretty. Last up, we have the Western Ghats and Maharashtra. It has not yet been proven, but some scientists believe that the Western Ghats could be weakened as a result of the high tectonic stress. In fact, areas along Maharashtra are already showing signs of land instability that have gotten experts pretty worried. The whole fiasco is insane, and nothing short of a horror scene unfolding right before my very eyes. But here's the thing. This isn't a collapse that's going to happen overnight. It is a slow-paced, sickening, yet terrifying disaster that's going to take years to pan out. So, how fast is it happening? The Indian plate isn't just moving, it is like the marathon runner a few feet away from the finish line who is putting it all in to win the race. But you know what left me stumped? The fact that no other continental plate is behaving this way. The Indian plate is moving faster than every other continental plate on the planet. As you can guess, that's pretty odd. The plate moves 2 inches each year. If you talk in human terms, the shift seems nothing. No bigger than the distance between a book and the edge of the shelf. Pretty insignificant, right? But if you talk about it in geological terms, over the course of 1,000,000 years, that tiny distance can add up to something massive. Something exactly like the Himalayas. Got you thinking there, didn't I? So, while the tectonic plates are working slowly, their impact is anything but small. In reality, it is far worse. Scientists believe that it is going to take millions of years for this shift to take place. So we might not be alive to witness the scene live. But one thing's for sure, it is happening right before our eyes, and most people are not even aware of it. Now, you might ask in return, should they even bother reading up on something like this? Well, the actual thing might not happen right now, but its effects are going to start to linger in the upcoming years. Is it worrisome? If you don't think about it too much, it doesn't sound the least bit troubling. I was ignorant too. I mean, look, the tectonic plates have been moving, shifting, and collapsing for millions of years, right? What's the big deal now? That's the thing. Times aren't what they were millions of years ago. A lot has changed, and the way that the Indian plate is acting out, it has definitely gotten the scientists scratching their heads. Heck, even the best of the experts are concerned. The biggest issue to come out of this chaotic event is the high seismic activity in some areas, and that's where the experts had my undivided attention. You see, the Indian plate is moving and pushing into the Eurasian plate as we speak. As it continues to do that, it is putting an enormous amount of pressure on the fault lines. You know, the giant tectonic pieces that all fit like a big jigsaw puzzle? Well, the points where they meet are the fault lines, and they are obviously going to bear the brunt of all of this mess. The problem is that the pressure doesn't sit on these fault lines idle. It will want an exit point, especially after it has bubbled up. So, like a ticking time bomb that's waiting to explode, this increased stress will find its way onto the surface world. As a result, the ground will shake and cause massive tremors on land. If you want a bit of context, I will take you back to 10 years when a similar movement underneath the ground caused a gigantic tremor in Nepal. I remember seeing it on the screen, thousands of miles away, and it looked horrifying, to say the least. But that's just one real-life example. I can only wonder what it will be like once the pressure finally releases on land. Scientists haven't painted a pretty picture either. They think that the tremors will become bigger, worse, and huge in numbers over the years. And there will be more than one country affected by it. Northern India is obviously in the mix, but Tibet and Nepal might also face the wrath of these tremors. But I fear that it is not the only problem that will come out of this slow-moving disaster. Experts warn that there will be land deformation in these areas too. The constant movements are causing parts of the Indian plate to rise upwards. At the same time, it is forcing other parts to sink to the ground. These uneven shifts aren't going to be easy on the Indian cities. Everything from buildings to infrastructure will get in the middle of these deformations. That means the quality of life will be affected, and the daily routine might even be forced to come to a halt. The sad part is that it won't stop there. It will force the water levels to shift abruptly, and we all know how that will end for the cities closer to the sea. Let's just say they are in for a lot more other disasters. And let's not forget about the Himalayas, the one region that's still being affected by the whole mess. But in the far future, it is the one that's going to take on the role of the troublemaker. As the mountains are growing and becoming taller each year, it opens the room for more and more landslides and avalanches. They could become pretty frequent, putting the lives of the thousands of people living close to the mountains in danger. That's not all. Apparently, with the mountains rising, there's bound to be an imbalance in the landscape. And that's not going to be a pleasant piece of news for the locals nearby in terms of weather changes. All in all, it doesn't look good. Not to me, at least. Can it be stopped? As much as I hate to say it, stopping the tectonic plates from moving is practically impossible. You see, the gigantic plates are moving, shifting, and being pulled by forces deep inside the Earth. There is absolutely nothing that humans can do to stop this from happening, and that's me sugarcoating the entire thing. Having said that, there are a few things that humans can do to prepare for the terror this event is planning to rain down on all of us, especially India. The first thing that they can do is to prepare their lands to withstand the massive tremors that are bound to happen sooner or later. The country might already have a solid plan for making its buildings and infrastructure shock-resistant. But are they designed to withstand these massive movements underneath the Earth's surface? Can they keep the people inside safe? Is there enough infrastructure that follows this effective design? If these plans haven't been set in motion yet, scientists should really start asking these questions. But there's more that can be done to deal with the effects of these tectonic plates shifting at bizarre speeds. And that's crafting a smart strategy to monitor the land deformations. This can be the quickest way to predict which of the areas will be affected the most. I read that scientists are already using advanced technology to track how the land is shifting over time. But whether they are shifting their focus on the Indian plate to prepare the country for the disaster or not is up for debate. Yet if they keep analyzing the data, the researchers can predict which of the parts of India are the most vulnerable to the shifts. Once they figure that out, they can help relay that information to authorities and warn them of the massive seismic events that are expected to follow. Another thing that can be valuable for the country is a warning system. Even if all of these things fail, which is a very real possibility, people could be warned of the tremors and accompanying disasters ahead of time. This simple act can help save thousands of people from a disaster that they probably will never see coming otherwise. What's India going to look like? In the most extreme of scenarios, India might just change the landscape of Earth yet again. Millions of years from now, India might break apart from Asia and drift off somewhere, completely changing the shape of the continent. Where will it go? Will it merge with another continent? Will it go solo? Nobody alive right now can give you an answer to that. But I have heard some wild theories, and one of them left me shocked. Some people think that if the split continues, there might be a massive rift valley that might be formed. It would have lakes, deep cracks, and hot plumes. But it won't be the end of its origin story. The valley would eventually fill up with water coming from the Bay of Bengal or the Arabian Sea. As a result, a new ocean would pop up in between, breaking India into one or more chunks. I don't know about you, but that sounds even more terrifying now that I have said it out loud. But wait, there's more. Some geologists believe that if the Indian plate continues with its relentless battle with the Eurasian plate, then the northern part of India might eventually become unrecognizable, years from now. Heck, it might even vanish into thin air, buried under the new mountain formations that are bound to come out of the constant smashing of the plates against each other. All of this could be seen 50 to 100 million years from now. Again, we won't be there to see it. But I don't think I even want to witness something like this. Will it affect the world? Yet, there's one thing that keeps playing over in my mind. I can't help but think how the world is going to get affected by a massive piece of land floating around, trying to find its new home. Because, let's be honest, this thing is going to put every country on its tippy toes. Tectonic activity in one part of the world can trigger a lot of events all around the globe. The effects are often witnessed far and wide, but with an event this big, the whole world is bound to be affected by it. The biggest problem is the increased seismic activity that's going to travel far and wide. It will leave India's borders and become a problem for other countries. It is believed that the contents of this mess will spill as far as into Central Asia. And that's not something I was prepared to hear today. I knew that if the landscape changes, then it is bound to disturb the water levels. But I didn't know that it would have a drastic effect on the climate too. It makes me think that we should have listened to the climate activists years ago. No, I am serious. There will be a shift in monsoon systems, a trigger in extreme weather conditions, and a possible declining effect on the food supply. I am not joking. This might just happen. And if it does, it won't just affect India. Do you believe that this massive event could trigger small disasters a few years from now? Do you think India can make it through this seismic shift? I will leave the comment section open for you. If you have any thoughts, theories, or more questions, share them with us below. While you're at it, please smash the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.